Welcome everyone to our 3 o'clock session. Thank you for joining us in Pod 4 today, where we will be going over unlocking program delivery. For today's sessions, we have 2 special speakers, James Ralph, Senior Account Director of Sensat, and Mark Thompson, Vice President of National Grid. Today's topics that will be covered are going to be applications for digital and AI, building the energy infrastructure of the future, and the strategic role of technology. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome your speakers.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming out. I'm really excited today to talk through what us at National Grid are doing with Sensat here. First, introduce myself, Mark Thompson. I lead our digital delivery team, which is responsible for digital products and data for the electric business. Prior to this role, I was delivering large substation projects, other large capital projects for the last 15 years of my career. So coming from that operational background into a technology world, I've really learned a lot, and it's interesting a tool like Sensat, how that kind of merges the two together. So with that, I'll hand it over to James to introduce himself.
Thank you, Mark. Hello, everybody. I'm James Ralph. I'm a Senior Account Director at Sensat, working with our energy customers, focusing specifically on working with transmission customers. And I'd like to tell you a bit about Sensat today and share how National Grid is using Sensat to support some of the challenges that they're facing in delivering critical infrastructure. So a little bit about Sensat, first of all. Sensat is a geospatial, AI-driven digital twin platform that's transforming the way that utilities deliver critical infrastructure through supporting planning, design, and delivery. By integrating vast amounts of spatial, engineering, and environmental data, we're able to give project teams a real-life view of their project before they ever break ground. Some of you will be familiar with these various interfaces that you see up on the screen in front of you here. These are a number of the traditional tools that teams use today to deliver infrastructure. They're critical to enable you to deliver infrastructure, but they often operate in silos. Sensat allows you to bring all of the data out of those tools into a single platform, a single pane of glass view, allowing a project team to collaborate more effectively and deliver projects with less risk. Mark, perhaps you could tell us a bit about some of the challenges that you're facing today.
Absolutely. So these industry challenges impact all utilities, not just National Grid. National Grid is an electric and gas utility in the UK and the US. We have about 3 million electric customers in the US between New York and New England. But these 3 areas, the renewable transition is really changing the dynamics of how our power systems are operating, who's connecting to it as well. The AI revolution and data center boom is increasing the amount of load in our system and how we operate as a utility. We're embracing AI day in, day out today. And finally, transmission is expanding more now than it has in probably the last 75 years, which are really driving 3 core problems that I see, or challenges that I see today. One is around customer expectations. So customers today, whether you're ordering a pizza from Domino's or a product online, they expect much more visibility into the status of that product. And the same thing goes for your electricity delivery. Next, we have more work than ever. And all this work we have today, we're trying to deliver it more efficiently. Consumer cost is a huge driver today. And as we deliver all this transmission expansion, we got to leverage AI to be smart about it. And finally, the amount of data available is huge. Back when I started, I had sheets of paper and drawings. Now I have gigabytes or terabytes of information that we have to work with. So Sensat is one of those tools that really helps address all 3 of those challenges that I face today.
Thanks, Mark. So I thought it best to bring this to life today with a couple of videos that we've put together to show you how Sensat can support the various phases of project delivery. So we've got 3 very short videos that I'm going to play now. One which demonstrates how Sensat supports that early stage of planning and design. One that talks to how Sensat supports that kind of permitting stage. And then one that talks about how Sensat supports the construction phase of project delivery.
Okay, let's talk about right-of-way and access. So we've brought in the PLS CAD models alongside the Sensat digital landscape. You can look at where the existing line goes in 3D, and with real geospatial information. You can then bring in either markups or uploads for the planned right-of-way to see where that route goes and the alignment of that. You can test it in 3D against topography, but you can also switch into the 2D to test it against the types of constraints such as federal land use. You can then use the Sensat platform to live optioneer and realign that route, and it also supports you uploading from other softwares to test different alignments and make sure that you're progressing your project with the best route.
So this example really highlights the customer expectations. This is a real-world example of a sensitive client that we have in upstate New York, about 45 minutes outside of Syracuse. They have multiple properties, and we've had several conversations with them. Using this tool, we're able to take multiple data sources, CAD drawings, images, and have a data-driven conversation with this client, really cutting through the he said, she said to focus on the data.
Thanks, Mark. Yeah, absolutely. You can see how by providing project teams all of this information very early on in the planning stage, they're able to make better decisions and communicate with local landowners much earlier in order to get a better outcome for the project. Just move us on to our next video, design and consultation.
Understanding the condition of your asset is essential when undertaking things like site strategy work. Sensat provides you an up-to-date three-dimensional replica of your site, so you can do things like inspect bus bars, see your equipment like SGTs, and fundamentally reduce things like site visits and expensive engineering surveys. It's really important for you to understand your site, and Sensat allows you to do this. So a common problem that we hear from connection engineers at National Grid is that explaining difficult plans to stakeholders like local planning authorities or other people within your organization can be time-consuming and complex. What Sensat's really good is bringing your plans into a three-dimensional geospatial context so you can justify decisions. Here you're seeing an example of presentation mode being used in Sensat.
This highlights the second challenge I talked about, and that was around how do we deliver more work with the same number of resources. So conventionally, we complete one process before moving on to the next one. We wait till we have a new survey before we start doing some permitting or some other detailed design. With this now, you can see how we could use good enough data. Maybe we don't have survey down to the 6-inch mark right now, but we can use old data to start sketching out where things would be sited. This is allowing us in these projects to do work in parallel rather than sequentially, really shortening the timeline to delivering some of our projects.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Mark. And we've had some great examples in working with National Grid where we've been able to help teams cut down on that permitting time by being able to start the conversations much earlier in the process with much better informed view of what their project's going to look like. And I'll move us on to the final video in the presentation.
When we talk to project managers delivering customer connections projects, a common problem we hear is that clashes in the schedule or issues with interfaces can cause delays to programs. What you're seeing here is an integration between your schedule tool, such as P6, and Sensat, where you can link models to your schedule in the context of reality information, allowing you to do things like 4D planning and spotting errors before they affect your project.
Okay, let's talk through a Sensat site induction. This is how your peers in the industry are now onboarding their contractors and consultants onto dangerous live sites. Sensat allows you to annotate areas of the site, whether that's entrance gates, whether that's site offices or parking, but also show all of the site in context with the models that are soon to be built or in stages of being built in the platform. The beauty of this is that people know the live areas of the site, the danger of the site, but also have context coming onto a project to understand what the end result is.
So here we're talking about how different data sources are leveraged by engineering and planners. It's also extending to the field. We have a use case right now where our field operations in our New England business unit, they're using this data on a tablet and they're marking individual parcels with landowner notes. So as they go through there and they're clearing trees for a new transmission line, they can say this homeowner has a dog. This homeowner wants to keep that oak tree that's over there. And we can engage much better with our customers and see really clearly where that is linked to other data sources. Whereas in the past, folks would have pieces of paper, there'd be phone calls. Now it's linked in the background, and we have a single pane of glass for all that communication around that one project. So in summary, as I went through my 3 points, and I'll say them one more time, really that customer expectations, stakeholder expectations, whether from regulators or others, we have to meet that, and tools like this let us do that. There's more work than ever. And finally, the point that really hits home with me now, having a data team, is the amount of data that we have. When I started as an engineer 18 years ago, I had a 3-ring binder about this thick for a project with sheets of drawings, equipment spec sheets, client notes. I had all this stuff in this 3-ring binder. If I was to try to get all that information we have for our project today, I would need a whole bookshelves of 3-ring binders. So we need tools like this that can link that data together to give us that virtual 3-ring binder and allow us to be effective as engineers, planners, stakeholder relations, everything we do as we deliver complex projects.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. And so the data volume is increasing, and as we've heard at nearly every single talk here, the number of projects are increasing at a rate that is difficult to keep up with. So we need to look towards technologies that can help drive quicker decisions, and that's really what Sensat enables our customers to be able to do. With that, I'd like to take any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, James and Mark. Give it up.
Thank you.
Thank you for that presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, this now opens up the floor for any questions that we may have in the audience. I think that lets me go first. Oh, never mind. Let's go over here.
It occurs to me, based on your presentation, that a lot of the value proposition of Sensat is around bringing information together that typically sits within different teams and may not be translated as a project goes through its development cycle. So can you speak a little bit to either what you've seen, James, at other customers, or Mark, what you've seen at National Grid in terms of the value that brings in and of itself?
Want to start?
Yeah, sure. Lots of interesting opportunities for project teams to develop projects in different ways. We've seen teams be able to collaborate and deliver projects together. We've seen capital efficiencies in that sense, which is often quite interesting. We've seen teams be able to progress much, much faster with regulatory decisions. We've got some really fantastic examples of data centers that needed to be built in Wales in the UK. There was a big restriction by the Welsh government, but the team that we worked with were able to present their constraints through Sensat in a way that was really easy for the Welsh government to understand. And they actually were able to get that decision overturned in a period of 6 weeks. These kind of things normally take much longer, so that team was, was massively happy that they were able to proceed that quickly. What about yourself, Mark?
So we touched upon a lot of the business values. We talked about the efficiencies, the collaboration, the engagement from other external stakeholders. One thing that we're looking at right now is we're delivering some of our really large transmission projects. We're talking hundreds of millions of dollars of these projects, is change order avoidance and the ability to see and have conflict identification early on. And then one thing that we didn't demo, which is really cool, is the historical sense of what that project looked like. So you can rev this back, just like if you go into a Microsoft Office product today, you go to old revision if someone made a mistake, you can do the same thing here. So you can go back to March of last year and see what did we look like, what are the conflicts. Much easier to really get that clear value, and it's, right now we're pinning the value really on that change order avoidance and mitigation ahead of time, in addition to all those other efficiencies and nice to haves.
Thank you. I did have a question, if you could probably answer this. Maybe you guys will have different answers, but I'm interested in seeing. When would you say is a good time to deploy Sensat into a project's life cycle?
Yep, I'll have a go at that one first of all. So Sensat provides, as hopefully you've seen there, Sensat provides different value across the life cycle of project delivery. But the value is very much maximized when you start delivering a project in Sensat, partly because of what Mark's just spoken about, actually. So all of those historic decisions are contained within Sensat. Project teams can go back and see why decisions were made. We hear regularly that the handover process within utilities from a team that's perhaps doing the early stage design, handing over to a team that's going to take it through the permitting process, things get lost. People aren't quite sure why decisions have been made. That causes delays. In some situations, the project actually has to go back, which is obviously a costly and a very time-consuming thing to happen. So Sensat can help prevent that from happening, as long as a project adopts it in those very early stages and then uses Sensat throughout the life cycle of project delivery.
Thank you for that. Yes, sir.
Thanks, really good presentation. A question I have a bit is on user adoption. So we're talking about engineers and scientists here, and very near and dear to my heart. This idea of, when we moved engineering from 2D to 3D and getting some of our folks moved along there felt like a miracle. I'm just curious, some lessons learned, things you've done, things you've run into, amazing technology. How do you get everybody using it so you get all the value?
I've got an answer, but you go first.
Well, we're still fairly early in this, so I do see that being a challenge. And that's going to be one of the challenges I was going to bring up was the scale of the project you're using this is right. You got to make people's jobs easier. You can't deploy something that's going to be more of a challenge. We're not looking at doing this for every single project. We're looking at doing this for the high impact, larger projects right now where it makes sense from a collaboration point of view. Our users who are using this, I know, like Jesse, I think he was very skeptical when he came in the beginning. This is one of our engineers responsible for option analysis, like 30% design kind of analysis. Was kind of skeptical about the overhead, started using it and realized once it's set up, I can manipulate stuff on here. I don't have to go back to an engineer and update an engineering print. My option team can actually do it there on the fly. And so we did get some good buy-in from there, but I'm curious, the boots on the ground, what you're hearing as well, James.
Yeah, I mean, it's great that you've mentioned Jesse, because in my experience, you need to find these core champions within a business. They're often very well respected by their peers as well. They're often very skeptical about new technologies, but I think they're the people that you need to go and get on board with these types of changes, because if they adopt it, very quickly their peers understand that this is the way that the organization is going to move. Yep. But actually, I think just working with Mark and Mark's team as well, you have to find a team within the organization, for us anyway, who can help promote you in the right ways and actually help find the Jessies of the organization, because we don't know who those people are. So we need to work with, with a great team like Mark's team to be able to enable us to do that. So it's a combination of those two things, I think.
Do we have any more questions? Okay, on that note, James, Mark, thank you so much for your time. Give it up for your speakers.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.